Okay, happy Monday, guys. I want to welcome you again to just a quick chat, just a quick Monday morning chat. I know it's typically Happy Friday or TGIF, but personally, I look forward to Mondays because it means things are about to get done. So again, it's only going to take a couple of minutes to chat with you and share something that I think is going to be very, very helpful to a lot of you, and that is the concept of chunking. Now, you've probably heard the term chunking used in many different ways when it comes to marketing yourself. The way that I'm using the phrase or using the word here today is in reference to you getting things done. And let me explain what I mean by that. Oftentimes, I think that we almost cause our own problems when it comes to getting things done and reaching our goals because we overwhelm ourselves. Okay. Let me give you an example. Let's say that my goal is to, for example, um, close another 5 loans a month this year on average. Okay. And so therefore I set the weekly and monthly goals for myself, and they're oftentimes going to be just way too much. Okay, it's like the elephant, if you will. So I tell myself, you know what? I am really going to get a handle on Facebook ads. Okay, I'm just going to knock it out of the park, and I'm going to generate 100 leads a month with Facebook ads. Okay, where do you begin? How do you begin? What tools do you need? Suddenly all these other questions start to present themselves, and they're questions that we don't have the answers to. And when you don't have the answers to those questions, when you don't have a clear direction, what happens? You get demotivated. Analysis paralysis. We don't take action because now we're overwhelmed. And so we start finding reasons to put it off till later because you know what? First, before I do that, I need to figure out this. And before I can figure out this, I first need to also figure out that. And I need to get my arms around software. I need to get my arms around this. And suddenly, next thing you know, you're overwhelmed and nothing happens. Okay, so with chunking, things are a little bit different. Okay, so instead of telling myself, hey, you know what, I'm going to get an extra 5 closings a month on average this year, I tell myself instead, you know what, I'm going to get 5 testimonials this week. Not just verbal, not just written, but I want them in video format. Now, which do you think is easier to do? On a Monday morning, when I'm sitting down and I'm looking at my to-do list, and I see on that list right here on this line item is do whatever is needed to get to 5 extra closings this month, or get 5 extra closings this month. But then next to that, I have get 5 testimonials this week. Which do you think my brain is going to prioritize and say, hey, I can do that? See, here's the thing, is if I get enough testimonials, I will get more closings because it will absolutely 100% guaranteed boost your closing percentage. So you're going to start making more with what you already have. So accomplishing that goal and doing that on a weekly basis, that right there is going to get me closer to my 5 closings per month. Because I can also, once I have all of these testimonials, I can do so many different things with them. Not only is it going to boost my average closing rate, but guess what else it's going to do? I can leverage it as an ad. I could turn my good feedback, my amazing testimonials, into an ad campaign. I could put it on my website. I could blog about it. I could do a video about it. I could put it on YouTube. I can run YouTube ads plus Facebook ads. There's almost no limit to what I could do with it. But see, we allow ourselves to just put way too much on our shoulders and focus so much on the big picture that we're never narrowing that picture down to its individual activities that will get us to that big picture. So let me give you another example of chunking. For those of you that were around when I first started training loan officers back in 2005, you might remember that one of the first things I started teaching was a strategy that I'd used in my own mortgage company. And that was what I call the 2-week burn concept. And the 2-week burn was when I decided that I was just going to get out of the refi market and focus on purchase business. And I decided that, hey, I need realtors to do that. And my first foray into marketing realtors was a big eye opener because I quickly learned, wow, they don't really like us much. So instead of just assuming that I knew what realtors wanted and trying to just, I don't know, brute force it, instead I did what was called the 2-week burn. And that was, I promised myself that over the next 2 weeks, I was going to speak to a minimum of 10 realtors per day, 6 days a week. I took my Sundays off, but Monday through Saturday. And wow, you know what? I emerged after those 2 weeks. I was not the same loan officer. I was not the same loan officer. And you know what? I was scared out of my wits in that. I mean, not scared as in frightened scared, but let's just say there was a lot of anxiety going on, and I was not looking forward to speaking to 10 realtors per day. And let me clarify, when I say speak to, I don't mean just dial up and ring and then get voicemail. I mean, I would not go home for the day until I had actually chatted with, had a verbal conversation with 10 realtors. And the logic behind that was that I needed to get more comfortable with real estate agents, with communicating with them. Number two, I needed to understand them better and how to interact with them better if I was going to really make this a big part of my business, because this was my business plan, was that I needed to be the number one loan officer that these agents thought of and sent referrals to. And either I could just keep going at this incredibly snail's pace, an incredibly low conversion rate, and just getting hung up on and yelled at and demeaned and just leaving the office feeling like crap. I could just keep going that route and making excuses. Or I could talk to 10 agents per day over the next 2 weeks. And at the end of those 2 weeks, analyze my results and my conversations. I took notes on every single phone call, every phone call. I took notes on detailed notes so that there was nothing left to chance. At the end of those 2 weeks, again, I was not the same loan officer. Number one, I could talk to realtors like nobody's business at that point, because I had learned and I had picked up on a lot of the industry jargon that I wasn't using prior to. I picked up on what the hot buttons were because they kept bringing up the same topics again and again. And you know what? I asked a lot of questions. I asked a whole lot of questions because my call wasn't a sales call. I just wanted to talk to them and I wanted to understand them better. So I was asking questions such as, what do you dislike about loan officers most? What are your biggest challenges when dealing with loan officers, especially loan officers you don't know yet? And I was asking them these probing questions, and not every realtor was game to chat about these things. But who cares? Because again, it wasn't a sales call. I wasn't getting rejected. I wasn't getting hung up on, because even those that didn't have the time to talk to me, they at least complimented and said, you know what, I think what you're doing here is good. Because most loan officers don't care enough to ask these questions. So I at least respect what you're doing. And that is so much better to go home hearing comments like that, as opposed to, hey, don't call me again, screw you, blah, 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 click, and all the other, horrible things that were said to me prior to this. So again, I gained a mutual respect, if nothing else. And I actually got business. Even though the intent of this was not to get business on during these calls, I got appointments because agents were so impressed that a loan officer actually cared enough to ask these questions that they say, you know what, we should talk. So I actually walked away with referrals and new agents when that wasn't even my goal. But again, the bottom line is that instead of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get 10 new realtors sending me referrals this week, my goal instead was, hey, I'm just going to talk to 10 realtors per day for the next 2 weeks. And that's what I called the 2-week burn, because yes, it was difficult. But by the end of those 2 weeks, it was easy. It's never going to be your favorite thing in the world to do. Let's be realistic here. But it was a whole heck of a lot easier at the end of those 2 weeks than it was to pick up that phone at the beginning, because I understood them better. I made so much progress. And now I had enough information and feedback to finally sit back and build my marketing plan of what I was going to do to get more realtor business. So again, chunking. I took and I reduced this overwhelming project into something much more manageable. Something that was very specific, that I didn't need a whole lot of preparation to do. You don't need a lot of preparation to pick up the phone and ask a few questions. Okay, you might need some motivation. You might need something to help you get over that anxiety of picking up the phone and saying, wow, this phone receiver feels like it weighs 150 pounds. But after you've done it a few times, wow, this is actually way easier than I thought. And that's the concept of chunking, guys. And I hope that you apply it this week to whatever it is that you have on your schedule, because chunking works. Take and reduce whatever is overwhelming you into something more manageable, so that you are making forward progress, so that you get that ball rolling, you get some momentum under your belt. And now at the end of that week, in this case, this week, you're going to be able to look back on Friday and say, man, I had a good week. I can actually point at something and say, I'm really glad that I did that. I'm just that much closer to my big picture. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with another week, just another week that's gone by where you say, I still need to get done this, and that. And they're probably the same things that we were talking about in January. And that's not a good feeling, guys. So let's do some chunking. Take a look at your schedule. Take a look at the goals that you set for yourself back in January and say, what can I do that is simple enough to where I don't need a bunch of education and a bunch of planning before I start that? What are the steps that I can take right here, right now, and simplify it? Don't overcomplicate it. Simplify it so that you are making forward progress, and you'll be better for it. All right, so I hope you guys have an absolutely awesome week. Hope you found today's short video updates and reminders to be helpful. I'll see you in our next video. Make it a good one, guys. Bye now.